Hello, hello. Let's remove this overlay. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for having us. This is going to be a great discussion today.
It is. It's one of those discussions that I feel like is probably the most sensitive topic we've talked about. Honestly, we've done a lot at AHS, and we've talked everything about everything from narcissistic abuse to chronic pain, you name it. We have talked about so much here in this space. But I feel, and maybe it's just the mother in me, but I feel like this is a very sensitive topic to people because it can create such deep wounds, especially within their identity. If they're not able to have a child and they're not able to conceive, or they've struggled with infertility. So this topic is very sensitive to my heart, and but I couldn't trust a better collective of practitioners to go live with, to really bring truth to the situations, and to help bring some wisdom to the table. So I'm super excited that you guys have all joined us here today. I think we've got a couple more that are going to jump on, or at least one more jumping on, and then we will get started. But before we do, oh, there we go. There she is. Hey, Bonnie. So, I want to just first go through. I feel like I'm stumbling over my words this morning. I didn't drink all of my coffee. I wanted to go through and introduce everyone today, and I'll start with myself. I'm Jamie Lee. I'm the founder and visionary of Alternative Healthcare Solutions. And it is such an honor to be able to host this space for everyone, and to, keep this sacred space for everyone to have a safe place to share their struggles, share their stories, and really just to dive into some alternative solutions in a safe environment that is really founded in education, awareness, letting people know and explore and have that safe space to just really explore what those alternative solutions look like. And it can be for any area in your life. We deal with mindset, we deal with chronic issues, we deal with just overcoming things in our life. Repeating patterns. I mean, you name it. We're really here to really address the mind, body, and spirit. And I think that that's what brings about complete transformation. And what I think is so cool is that each one of our practitioners here at AHS believes that you can heal your life, believes in that complete transformation. And everyone has gone through some form of complete transformation of their own. So I'm super honored to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys introduce yourself and how you help with people, how you help people. So Jody, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Okay, thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jody Solberg. I'm a certified master hypnotherapist, and I help women to heal from trauma and anxiety, as well as burnout, by guiding them to tap into the power of their and their children's subconscious minds for optimal health, development, positive behaviors, high self-esteem, secure attachment. And I work a lot in this realm with women of fertility, infertility, pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum issues, and beyond. And so I'm so grateful to be here today to take part in this discussion.
Thank you for coming. I'm super excited. Jody is actually just coached my husband and I. We were expecting our eighth child, but she has coached us through an entire hypnobirthing philosophy. So we're super excited to have her here as well. And then we have Bashad.
Afternoon all. I'm Vishad. I'm the Mindset Transformer with my brand Inner Peace Walker. I help you reconcile and overcome low self-worth from wherever you want to start in your life, leading you to the path to create your own inner peace, to find whatever you might want it to be. I think the discussion today is going to be really powerful. It's a very personal and quite intimate topic, I think. So really looking forward to sharing perspectives with everybody here.
Thank you, Vishal. We're glad to have you here. I think mindset is one of the biggest things around this entire process. And so I'm so glad that you've joined us. I really do find that, with mindset, when you're going through anything, any life changes, your mindset is foundational for that change to happen or that thing to come through. So it's so easy as a parent or as someone who is even just going through any kind of situation like this and transforming or trying to get pregnant, trying to find a job, it's that mindset and that identity that go hand in hand that you have to be careful not to lose your identity, especially when you are a parent, especially when you are a spouse, or even just coming of your own and trying to find who am I? And so it's a confusing world these days, but so I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you for joining us. And Bonnie, welcome.
Hello, everybody. So this is going to be an emotional talk for me.
Yes.
This is something that is very personal. And many of my followers know my story, but I haven't really shared a lot on public forums. So I can tell you firsthand that mindset is key to any infertility, fertility concerns, pregnancy, postpartum, parenting, especially when you get to 3. That's when they get a bit crazy and psycho and oof, it's a whole new ball game. That is not where I excel in my profession, though. I'm actually a holistic nutritionist and an herbalist, helping women to really focus on healing your gut so that you can heal and more effectively manage long-term wellness without all the overwhelm and all the other junk. I'm a co-founder for a holistic wellness center where I work with several practitioners, including Kate Simpson, who you're going to hear from next. So I'm excited for this. I'm definitely feeling the feels today and having some flashbacks. So we will get into it in just a minute. You have questions or you want to talk about anything that we talk about here, feel free to DM. It's all good.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to point out too, just even early on in the conversation here, that autoimmune conditions really do affect your ability to get pregnant. It doesn't matter the autoimmune condition, your body sees any kind of, when the sperm comes into your body, it sees it as a foreign body and it attacks it. So it can really play a huge role in your infertility process. And healing the gut is one of the first things that you have to do in order to heal the autoimmune. So it is a foundational layer and, to be able to create that environment to be able to conceive. So thank you so much for being here, Bonnie. Your experience and your knowledge and expertise is going to be greatly welcomed. All right, and Kate, I'm so excited you're here as well. And I was worried that you weren't going to be here, but you're here, so yay!
I'm here. I'm happy to be here. Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Simpson. I work as an energy healing practitioner. I have a number of modalities. One that will be true to this discussion today will be the emotion code, and really understanding how the way that you feel emotionally is a physiological response to your body. And what I help you do is I help you identify energy essentially that you've suppressed or bottled up or trapped in your body. And these can be emotional vibrations, but they can be other physical things as well. But they disrupt your body. And they're really at the root cause of a lot of things that either slow down or stop our healing or disrupt the bodily process. And of course, they affect how we act and react in the world emotionally. So it's to me, it's one of those things where you may or may not even know or understand that you have some of these trapped energies, these trapped emotions, these trapped vibrations, and we can easily identify them and let them go. And when that energy leaves the body, then your body can do what it's designed to do, and that's rebalance, restore, repair, and heal itself. And so this, in combination with all of these other incredible experts, is so complementary because it just works with every aspect, whether that be emotional, whether that be mental, whether that be physical. It's all complementary. So really excited to be part of this discussion today.
Absolutely. And, it was interesting. I had a conversation yesterday with a gal. She is a doTERRA rep. And, I explained to her that we were having this event and it was the topic of the event. And she really got emotional. And she said, that was me. I lived that life. She now has 2 healthy boys that are like teenagers. But as she was, telling her story, because I asked her, I'm like, let me hear your story. I want to know what happened. And so she started to share it. And those emotions were still raw. Like 18 years later, the feelings that she experienced going into the doctor's office to check, to have the eggs. Sorry, I'm already going to get you crying, Bonnie. To have those, to check to see if the eggs were viable and all of these things were so right there, just right there on the surface. Even though she's done having kids, she didn't want any more kids. She was complete and she had 2 healthy boys, but still the emotions are right there. So it's very important what you do and what you contribute to, this topic and for people out there that are struggling. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Okay, so just want to dive in a little bit and tell you how the format's going to go. For those of you who don't know, we are doing this about once a month on a Thursday, and it's going to be centered around the topic that we'll have the main event for. So we do these roundtable discussions just to really start to engage with you guys to show you what we're going to be talking about at the main event. Our main event is going to be held on April 27th at 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It is an all-day event with workshops every hour on the hour. We have networking. We have vendors that are just phenomenal companies that you are going to really receive the benefits from. We're actually going to be introducing a new person. We're going to be, I'm sorry, hold on, sorry. My brain can't do 2 things at once, clearly. Oh yes, it's saying April. My bad. I don't know why it's saying April. That's what you were saying. Got it. So let me change that really quick. Sorry, it's going to be July. I must have copied and pasted. There we go. There we go. My bad, y'all. Anyways, so it's what we do is we come together as practitioners and we will do this workshop every hour on the hour. These companies, we're going to be introducing a new practitioner. We're going to be introducing a new company for you. And we're going to be diving into every area of expertise that these practitioners have for when it comes to identity in fertility, infertility, and that whole journey to parenting. So we would love to have you. If you go to join-ahs.org, you can use the coupon code LIVE, all caps, and it'll get you in for just $1. The event is normally around $35 to join. However, I do want to say this as well. We have an entire community that is for your healing journey, that we really go beyond what we're able to say on social media and what we're able to say on these other platforms, and really dive deep into your healing journey and true transformation. So we invite you into that space as well. And if you become a member of our Alternative Healthcare Solutions community, then you're going to have free tickets to every event we put on from here on out. And we do these events once a month. It's typically towards the end of the month. But if you're not able to make it, we also upload all of these workshops inside of our community, so you have access to everything. You never miss anything. So we would love to have you join us there. If you would like information on that, just comment below. And also, please share in the comments if you're watching it live or if you're watching the replay. We would love to just hear from you and hear your thoughts. If you are watching the replay and you have a question for one of our practitioners, we will be answering them in the main event on July 27th. That's the fantastic thing about doing it this way. So if you have, not able to engage in this, but you really found this helpful and insightful, then please feel free to jump in there. Hi, Mandy. Feel free to jump in there and shoot your questions to us, and then we will be addressing those in the main event on July 27th. Okay, so we're going to get into some questions here. And let's see. Let me pull up some of our first questions. It's really, what we do is we go through, we kind of ask our audience, what beforehand leading up to this event, what questions do you have for a collective of practitioners? And these are the questions that have come up. So let me put this one across the banner here. And I think the first one is going to be, why aren't alternative therapies publicized more? So let's talk about that really quick. This is kind of an interesting topic. I've also been talking to some publicists lately, and anytime we're looking at going kind of a bigger scale with AHS, and when we get into those big publicized media outlets, such as Fox News and ABC and all of those bigger organizations, there are certain words you cannot say. In fact, our title alone, you cannot say, because you are going against science and you're going against, big pharma. And so we're going to just talk about this a little bit more, but I want to hear from our experts here of, we are in this space of alternative therapies, and we come across this problem every day. So I wanted to kind of throw this out here and see if anybody wanted to jump in and share your thoughts on the matter. Bonnie?
Mostly is because of the words. It's because of the way that history and how medicine has developed, because what we're doing here with alternative healthcare and holistic science used to be the only medicine in the world. And then things shifted in the world, and now it's complete opposite. And while there's studies out there, there's even studies showing that lavender heals burns, truly heals burns. And that word is said. However, when you are on platforms, when you're on TV, you can't say that. And one of the things that I noticed going through specifically this fertility journey is that when you're looking for help, you can't just use normal words. You have to beat around the bush. And the biggest reason that I think alternative therapies are not publicized more is just that we've got way too many hands in the pot that shouldn't be there. That this should be complementary. We help each other. All facets of medicine cross over, all facets of healthcare cross over, but that's not the way that our society is structured. Not yet.
That's one of the visions and hopes and goals of alternative healthcare solutions, is to really bridge that gap. Because we do need to come together, and, modern science needs to recognize ancient science, in my opinion. So, Jody, how about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, so it was interesting what you said, because you said that it's going against science, and I would say it is science, which, like you just said, it's ancient science, right? But it's not patentable and for big pharma, right? So if you're talking about lavender, like Bonnie just was, you can't patent lavender because it's occurring in nature. And so there's not all that money to be had in that. And, if you go back, let's say, a long time, back to ancient Greece, and we go back to the days of Hippocrates, who started the midwifery, I wouldn't say program, I guess, but, he founded that, right? He said, women need support in being able to have these natural childbirths. And then what happened is over time, right, then churches got involved, government got involved, people wanted to have control and really started to villainize, right? First of all, women, people who were studying any kind of herbalism, anybody who was helping with natural methods because they wanted to push their own agendas. And so then that became illegal and it became witchcraft and became villainized and all of these things shifted. And we started to go into this, really fear-based mentality, this mindset around anything that wasn't the agenda of that more modern medical community. So there's a lot of history. There's a lot of generational and historical trauma and this mindset that's been passed down and keeps getting perpetuated by the media. Because as you all know, I talk about hypnosis a lot and how we are programmed, in a lot of negative ways through media, through the pharmaceutical companies. We all, as soon as the pharmaceutical company commercial comes up, we can hum the jingle, right? There is so much money and force that's put behind this like new age science agenda. It's still science. It's still proven. It can't be benefiting, right, those big companies as much. There's not as many, they think, billions of dollars in it. But honestly, I would, really fight against that and say there's so many of us who need alternative therapies that are benefiting from them, that there's a huge audience there. And so, it's been backwards, I think, for a long time. And I think it's those of us that are going to come together and share about all of these, natural and holistic remedies that are going to be able to shift that. So looking forward to seeing that happen, hopefully, in our lifetimes.
Absolutely. I think it's important that you also pointed out, well, maybe we should emphasize a little bit more. In history, it has been more male domination of the women, of suppressing women. And then we've gone from this shift of this male domination, suppressing women through childbirth and telling them how they should give birth. And then we went from women taking it over to making it a dominated female, experience. And we have truly neglected the fathers in all of this process. And, it was a conversation I had recently with this gentleman and in my BNI group that, when I was started talking, he said, well, maybe you should come talk to my men's group. And I'm like, men's group? I'm like, okay. And he said, we are a group of dads who have really struggled through the identity shift because all of the focus is on the mom. And you become, the almost the servant to the mom to make sure she's okay, and rightly so. But there's a huge identity shift in the fathers that, we tend to put so much focus on women and the mothers and everything. But I don't want to neglect the fathers in this conversation, because I find that it's so valuable, especially in a society that always pins fathers and dads as the dumb, ignorant person. Like, I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but, cartoons, they display dad as this ignorant, just in this bliss. And the mother is always the smart one that's pulling things together. I mean, think about it in sitcoms. What is the one, Everybody Loves Raymond? The dad was always dumb and oblivious and causing more trouble that the mom was putting back together. And it's a common theme in society, which, this is the father is so important in the role of a child, is so important in the role of even just supporting the mom through this process, but they need equal support through this entire process as well. It's, it is a challenge for them as well. So, and I know we've got more to talk about, but I wanted to give everybody a chance to say something as well. Kate, did you have anything else on this question? Which, again, if we want to go back to the question, let me see here. The question is why aren't alternative therapies publicized more?
Yeah, I would kind of just agree with both Jody and what Bonnie shared. And, it's just also generationally at this point, so many people have been raised with the traditional medical system, which there's absolutely a time and a place for, but it's just a lack of awareness as time has passed. That's just, we only know what we know. And, I look at my parents, and they were just raised in this generation of, when you have a problem, you go to a doctor, and that's, the doctor only shares what the doctor knows, and they're not trained. So I think a lot of the reasons that these aren't publicized is because medical doctors are not trained in natural or holistic approaches. They're trained in their specialty, or they're trained in their area. And so because they're not aware of it, they never recommend natural, holistic, or alternative approaches. And so I also think we're seeing that it's not publicized because of just, we're in this stage where we generationally did not learn it. And we're not instructed. And I know, just again, a little bit older than me, my parents, they were just raised where, oh, nope, you go to a doctor, you go to a doctor, you go to a doctor, and you do what the doctor says. The doctor is the expert. And they are an expert in what they're taught, but they're not an expert in these other approaches, which are incredibly effective for supporting and healing and helping the body restore itself. So I think that's a big reason it's not publicized as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Vashad, what about you? What are your thoughts on this? And then the next question is going to go to you anyways. We'll start with you on the next one. So go ahead. Do you have any thoughts towards that?
Oh, good. I mean, I think it's been beautifully covered already by everybody. The idea that we've grown up with certain program experiences, behaviors that we just take as read, so we don't really question. So usually, and if we do feel unwell or got an injury, you go straight to a doctor. Then you might have heard of alternative therapies. What do they call it? Oh, mum's home remedy or that kind of thing. But we quickly dismiss it, going, that sounds less certain, and one of our core human needs is certainty and control. We're more certain when we go to someone who's been through the training or the practice, has a white coat, all those reassuring signs. You go to their office or surgery, and they will have the answer that will definitively work, and you feel better from going to see those kinds of people, as opposed to trying something that you don't know whether it will actually work for you or not. Some people tell you it will work, some people tell you give it a go, but you're more like, well, I can just get rid of that by going certainly to a doctor who will probably give me the solution. So to add to what everybody's saying, I would just take the question a step further, saying, is it a question of not being publicized a lot, or is it that we can work on ourselves to tune in to the signals around you? I mean, we're in a world today where all that information is pretty much available for us, right? And I know people say that obviously Googling illnesses or remedies, something is not exactly the way to go, but I mean, we can get more empowered by listening to people like the people we've got on this platform. They're brilliantly served, and in what they do, they can help you, they can give you a different perspective and share their experiences. So rather than wait for it to be, I guess, shown to us or publicized, we can do our own sort of digging and finding, and pretty much with anything we have in our life, right? We can either rely on what everybody tells us out there to do and not to do and all this kind of thing, or to go, okay, let's see what else is out there. Let's see what works for me, what doesn't. It's not about, right, everybody switch over to alternative therapies and everything like that and take everything as read. It's like, there can be more than just going to a doctor. And by no means am I having a go at medical professionals, or sometimes even they don't know the answer. You go to them with, whatever ailment, and they go, well, this might work, this prescription or whatever. And it's like, come back in X weeks and we'll see how it goes. And, to touch on the topic of the seminar, fertility and infertility, I'm sure we'll dig into, but even that kind of approach will also stand you in some good stead here. Like, we'll dig into what the space is between our emotions, what we feel, stories, and how it affects our physiology. But as I say, that's further to come, but just a little pointer to add on what everybody else has mentioned well already.
Good point. That's an excellent point. Thank you, Vashad. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question. And Vishal, I'll let you go ahead and finish and answer this one as well. But how does mindset play a part in a world of fertility and fertility and becoming a parent?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. When that question came up for me in the space of this topic, I thought, well, to be honest, might just well start with that word mindset. I've seen actually debated in a few things I've seen recently, and I guess there's multiple definitions you can go about it, but one way you could look at it is your mindset is a collection of your subconscious patterns, traits, and beliefs, which are all interconnected with your internal representations, states, physiology, and behavior. They're all interlinked together in ways that you might readily recognize or aware of, or are run automatically by subconscious from years of programming experiences that you've picked up along the way. So, you'd have heard of things like that. You've got a negative correlation between things like stress, anxiety, and negative thought patterns, or patterns that don't serve you in terms of like reproductive health. So, for example, if you feel more stressed, it can affect like your hormonal balances, like, because stress hormones like cortisol interrupt that signaling between your brains and your reproductive elements. But on the other hand, if you've got a positive or more brighter outlook, it can have, a better impact on things like your fertility. So if you're hopeful, you're optimistic, it affects your physiology because you're likely to be in a better state of balance and take actions that lead you to a better state of being. So things like going to bed early, or getting some proper rest, or getting some proper nutrition, that kind of thing. And on the flip side, if you're not feeling great about yourself in general, that'll lead you to actions that impact your physiology in a not so great way, and negatively, I guess, impact your fertility chances. So there's talk out there, and again is increasing more about even your beliefs about yourself affect things like your physiology, and therefore into your fertility, for example. So I just came across this very quick experiment or practice they did revolving around milkshakes. Now bear with me, there is hopefully a little bit of relevance here. So some scientists wanted to test the hormone ghrelin, which basically promotes how hungry you might be. So they essentially gave the same milkshake to a group of people, and in one instance they were told it's calorie laden, if I can get that up, and they were also told that the same milkshake is calorie sensible, in two separate goes, if you will. And they basically measured that hormone through before taking it, whilst, and post consumption. And they showed that when they looked at the levels in the group that had been told it's a calorie high indulgent shake, then that produced a steep decline, almost as 3 times as much as the group that drank the same shake but was deemed as the sensible, low balanced one. So in essence, because that group believed that it was rich and perhaps unhealthy, then they produced less of the helpful hormones. So literally just having the belief affected how they consumed the intake, even though the shake was the same in the 2 instances. So even just having those beliefs, let's say, just affects your physiology, which affects your state, which affects your behavior, all interlinked by literally what you thought of in the first place. And the last bit of what I'll include in this little bit of waffle is people have heard of things like practicing gratitude, journaling, visualizing, staying kind to yourself. They're all great tools that we can practice in general to help our state, our internal representations of what's going on. But I think the key word here is internal. Much of the decisions we make about fertility, whether to have a child in the first place, what course of treatment to take, etc., on both sides of the coin, whether it's the mother or the father or the prospective mothers and fathers, we might feel a sense of external pressures on what we should be doing, depending on where we find ourselves. So I myself am in a culture where it's very much ordained by your age as to what you should have done. So if you are 30, you should have got married by now. And then a couple of years later, you should have had kids. Regardless of situation, that's where you should be defined in your age. And if you don't, then it's literally linked to your self-worth. So basically, you're not good enough if you've not hit those certain states. Now, when it comes to kids, it's not like, going down to your grocery shop. You're raising a new human being. It's an incredibly personal decision you're making, wherever you are in that stage, whether you feel you're a bit older to have children, or you're not decided whether you want to be, a mum or dad first. But what I would just say to that is that's where I think the link to identity comes into place, because very quickly you could feel like you've done work on yourself, feel secure in your life, but because you're not a parent, then that's not good enough. I feel it at the moment. I'm literally the last man standing in my wider family, where everybody's having children, have children, and you can see the impact it has on people and how deeply personal situations are. But it's only when you get to take your own responsibility by the decisions you're making with your partner and those people around you, that's how you get to keep, if you will, your identity, given all the challenges and hardships that are going to come along the way. And we always, I say, just to finish, we always have the opportunity to tune into signals and the options around us. And if I could just say, Jamie, our leader, is like a shining example of this. I mean, as she mentioned at the beginning, 8 children. I mean, look, kudos to all the mums and dads out there, but I mean, she's probably like the go-to expert to see this, to share, her experiences and relations, as is probably everybody on this call. And as I say, there's always possibility to tune into the great people like Jamie and everybody else on this call around you to help your journey. As long as you make it your own journey, you can't go that far wrong. Bloody hell, I went on there. Sorry about that.
I love it. I think it's also, it's a good point that as long as it's your journey, but I want to also bring awareness to the fact that even people like myself who, if I'm looked at wrong, I'm pregnant, that we go through, like, infertility affects us because we're going through a process of, it's very easy to get pregnant, and then you have best friends, you have siblings, you have loved ones that you have to sit there and look at them and say, I'm pregnant again. And that is so emotional and it's so hard. And, you start to feel all of these emotions of like, man, I don't even want to share this pregnancy. I just want to keep it secret. Or, you feel really empathetic to those around you. So infertility doesn't affect just the person going through it. Of course, it's mostly that person, but it's those around them as well. And not to dismiss the whole world of infertility and fertility does come with the fact of miscarriages. And there is so much. I know myself, I've had 5 miscarriages. And that each one has impacted me. And it's also one of those things where, in the world of people trying to help you, they'll say the most dumbest things just to try to console you. And so mindset really does play a huge role in this as well, because, when you're mourning, this was a child, that this was a potential, this was a possibility, this was a life that was being created in you. And it is such a devastating experience to go and have that ultrasound when you're going in to have the ultrasound to see what sex the baby is. And they say the baby died 4 weeks ago. And it is just a devastating experience. Like I said, I've gone through this 5 times, so I know, but I think that we dismiss it and say, oh, God needed another angel. I'm sorry. God doesn't need anything. And, there's these things that they try to say because they just don't know what to say. They've not experienced it. They've not gone through it. And it's very difficult to keep your mind in the right space for that, through that process, and carry those wounds, but also release those wounds and to heal from those past traumas of miscarriages. And miscarriages are very difficult. So my heart goes out to everybody who's gone through miscarriages and gone through this process as well. And it's difficult on the fathers too. It's a very difficult process to see their wife in mourning, the child that they've lost. I have someone very close to me that just went through a miscarriage, and it's just heartbreaking to watch. How excited they were to tell everybody. They were telling random people because they couldn't tell their family and friends yet. So they're telling random people, like the gas station clerk, and then to come to find out that they had miscarried. It's so hard to, go through that. But I think that there is validation in recognizing that was a child that you lost. When you validate that loss, instead of trying to ignore that it was just a failed pregnancy. Like, mourning that loss, it's okay to mourn. Like, that has been my biggest message through a lot of people who go through miscarriages. It doesn't matter if you were 5 days pregnant, or if you were 5 weeks pregnant, or if you were 5 months pregnant. It is okay and necessary to mourn the loss of that child. It is necessary to go through that grieving process and to really allow yourself to feel those emotions and allow yourself to release them. And Kate, I'm sure you have things to say about all of that as well, and Bonnie. So I want you guys to jump in if you have anything to say.
Yeah, I think in general, emotions are real. They're responses your body has to your environment, to input from your environment. So when somebody goes through a loss or a tragedy of trying to get pregnant and not able to, or miscarrying, or just this whole process of changing your identity, becoming a parent or becoming a parent again, all of that creates emotions. And emotions are felt in a positive way or in a negative way. We have these positive and negative emotions, but it's really the meaning that we apply to it. But they are meant to be felt. And so all I can say is that whatever the emotions you're experiencing, they're important to be experienced. They should be honored. And whether they feel good or they feel bad, they need to be just honored and identified and felt. It doesn't mean you need to stay in that experience long term, but is important to honor what is felt without any judgment. It's perfectly justified to feel whatever you're feeling. And the word "I should feel this way" or "should feel that way" is just a terrible word. So it's, you feel what you feel, and it's okay to feel what you feel. Now, the beauty of using like mindset and things with this is to just allow, accept, and allow that energy to process. And as that energy processes, healing happens, the grieving process happens, and just the process of not only grieving, like if there's a loss of a pregnancy, but also grieving the loss of who you were. Part of you change, whether you're becoming a parent or whether you are trying, but there's a grieving of self along with grieving a loss. So I would just encourage people to, try not to force yourself to feel a certain way because it's expected, or force your mentality a certain way. There's wonderful tools that, Jody, has some incredible tools to support helping you, guide you through this process as well. So Vishad has tools to support your mentality, but I would just say to honor what you feel, and not try to think you should or shouldn't feel a certain way.
Absolutely. Wise words, Kate. Thank you so much. Speaking of Jody, I wanted to throw this ball in your court here, because I know with what you do as a hypnotherapist, mindset is a huge part, and rewiring that brain, rewiring that thinking. But would you mind going through just giving our audience the experience, the demonstration of how our mind has a chemical response in our body, and maybe give the lemon example and take everybody through that?
I can do that. Yes, I can definitely do that. So, when Vishad was talking about, our mind-body connection, right? And all of you just described everything so beautifully. But our thoughts play a huge part in our physiology. We're taught throughout our lives to disconnect, that our minds and our bodies are somehow separated. And that is absolutely not the case. And so what happens is we're taught to ignore our signs and symptoms of what's going on, right? Like, we have these thoughts, we have these emotions, and not only do we have behaviors as actions, we have physiological responses in response to those thoughts and those emotions. And so, a lot of times we're told not to feel, like Kate was saying, what we're feeling, or that, oh, it's not that bad, or you shouldn't or shouldn't do this or feel this way. And so we're just constantly dissociating and disconnecting from that. And so it is so key, like they were saying, to realize how connected those things are, that we need to feel all the things that we feel, like you were saying, Kate, acknowledging that without judgment, allowing ourselves to feel and to process through those things so we can release them from our bodies, from our nervous systems, not hold on to those things that we think we shouldn't be feeling. And what Jamie's talking about with the lemon example is how our bodies respond to just our thoughts. So if we are even just thinking about something, our body is going to respond as if it were physically happening. So if you actually are thinking about working out, your muscles are actually firing inside your body as if you were running or as if you were doing those exercises. And so I'll go ahead and take everyone through. So I'd like you to, if you're not driving, if you're in a comfortable space where you can close your eyes, you can close your eyes for this. But I would like for you to imagine yourself in a kitchen. So you just take a nice deep breath. Allow yourself to drop in, allow your imagination to open and to flow, and just imagine yourself in a kitchen. It could be your kitchen, it could be a kitchen from your childhood, it could be a kitchen that you just create in your imagination, but whatever kitchen that you are in, I'd like you to just notice everything about this kitchen. Notice the sights, the sounds, the smells. Just notice everything that's going on around you. And I'd like you to notice that on the counter is a cutting board with a lemon sitting on that cutting board. And there's a knife on the cutting board, just a small one, just like a little paring knife that can cut it through a lemon. Very safe, very normal, just something that where you can cut into that lemon. I'd like you to notice that yellow lemon, notice everything about it. Notice the dimpling on the skin of that lemon. And imagine picking up that lemon, maybe rolling it between your hands, making it nice and juicy, or rolling it on the cutting board. And then imagine cutting into that lemon. Notice the juices that are flowing. Notice the smell of that fresh citrus filling the air. Notice all your senses taking in this beautiful lemon. And then I would like you to imagine putting that lemon up to your nose and smelling that lemon. That fresh citrus scent. And then you get this impulse and you bite into it. Go ahead and bite into that lemon. And then feel your cheeks. Feel that tartness, that sourness. And then I'd like you all to go ahead and open your eyes. Did you salivate? Did your cheeks pucker? What did you experience? And I'll let you all on the screen just share with that. That was just a brief example. There's a much longer lemon script too, but that was a really brief exercise. What did you notice in your body just literally thinking about that in your mind?
Every time I go through this exercise, because I do this with my clients and as well, and every time, like, I can't even get through the practice and my jaw starts locking up right
Like,
through
no,
there.
it's coming.
It just starts locking up. And interesting, I took one client through and he said instantly his hands started burning because he used to have a lemonade stand and any cuts and nicks on his hands, like he just instantly went right back to that feeling of burning sensation. So I think it's such a powerful example to show you how our body just responds just to that mental thought, and how if we are in this calm, restful state, as you can tell, Jody took us through, she calmed us down, she gave us very detailed things to look at and go through and wander with our mind and create that imagery in our mind, and very, very thoroughly visualize the kitchen we were in. I automatically started cleaning my kitchen. I don't know about you guys, but it's like, oh yeah, we're doing lemons. But you know, as you go through that mind process of just focusing on that thing, then your body is just in tune and in sync and instantly responds. So anybody else want to chime in? Did you guys feel the same experience going through it? Yeah.
I just realized I'm thirsty. I want some lemonade now.
Right? Oh my gosh. That sounds so good. I want to also address here, you know, I can already hear people saying it's not that simple. It's not that simple. And so, and I hear you. And I wanted to just kind of give Bonnie the microphone here for a minute. And what do you say to people in that space right now? Because you've been through this process. You know what it's like to go through infertility and the challenges. So go ahead and share your thoughts to the person who's thinking it's not that simple.
It really isn't that simple. And there's no discounting that. When you're in the throes of it, it is very hard to remember that so much of this process is mind over matter. The emotional roller coaster that you are on is one of the worst. It's one of the worst, especially when you're getting no after no after no, which was my experience, till the bitter end, which the universe and I have had our little chats about that. But when I was going through it, I had already been in health and wellness for I think it was 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. So I already knew that mindset was crucial and mindset was key to keep me sane. My goal was, we're going to go through this. First time, no big deal. We're just having a little challenge, you know, and that's, for a lot of us, that's what we think walking in. So you don't think that you have to do anything. And then they put you on all the drugs. You now have to give yourself shots, and it screws with you royally without having help. And I was blessed after a couple of years to start working in a holistic wellness center with an energy healer and with an acupuncturist. And those ladies, they took such great care of me. And I think ongoing, that is why we were able to get through those last few years. I was pregnant during COVID. I have COVID babies, you guys. They were in NICU during the shutdown, which is quite interesting as a parent, because they will let mama in, no big deal. But when daddy comes walking in, my husband had a challenge and had to fight every single day to get in. Without having that help, there's no way I would have remembered to do anything to help my mind. And the only reason I got through day in, day out, because you go through this process and there are symptoms, and yeah, you want to pay attention to the symptoms, but 90% of the symptoms you're feeling when you're in fertility treatments are caused by the medications you're on. So you can't even trust your own body. You can't trust your own mind. The key factor for me and for a lot of us is having somebody there, a sounding board, if nothing else, to really help us along the way. And I think today I can look back on it. I can talk about it, emotional or not. I can talk about it and share graphic details of how I was feeling, what I was doing, because of the ladies that I worked with, because of the people in my world who helped me do things and kept an eye on the areas of my health and wellness that I wasn't in a place to pay attention to. Because you're grieving and you're processing loss the entire time. Mm-hmm. There's never really a moment that I can look back on and feel like I was settled. Even when we took a break, it still felt like we were in the middle of everything and going through it. Mindset is the only thing that helps. in those cases. And you really do need someone outside of it. So if you're sitting and you're thinking it's not that simple, you don't have to be in charge of that. You can find someone trustworthy to be in charge of that. And my husband needed his own sounding board. This isn't just a one person thing. He went through things too. And those sounding boards, whether it's a professional like the people that you see here on our panel, or it's, your best friend or somebody else that you've connected to, or a group, a community that is going through it, you need a sounding board. And you need people to remind you to practice all of the things mentioned here today. It's a daily practice. It is a daily practice. It is not something you can get lazy about.
Absolutely. I think it's such a valid point, and I'm glad that you brought it up, is that support system, because, it is so difficult to go through that mindset, especially when it's not just your mind, it's your hormones. It's your hormones. It is your environment. It is everything raging inside of you. And, not only that, but back to the conversation that I had with a lady who had the experience of going through infertility that was so raw with her. One of the things that she expressed was, from the moment that you conceive the child through whatever process, they consider you high risk, and you are on weekly appointments because they don't, they're no guarantee that this is a viable pregnancy. Yes. So you are on a week-to-week basis of finding out, is this viable? Is this viable? Is this baby going to live? And it's a constant repeating battle that is intense. And again, I want to emphasize the important role of the father, because the father needs to be able to be that strength and that person to, that knows the desires of the mom's heart, that knows the process that she's going through. He needs to be supported because he's a pillar. He is a pillar holding her up through this process. And, we know that they need just as much support through this process as the moms do. And so thank you for sharing that vulnerable experience of yours. And, and I think that that's one of the things that I loved about the class that I did with Jody, is that she really emphasized the father's role in the birth process. And my previous birth experiences, it was more of like, just leave me alone, go over there. Just like, I just had to have like this complete space, and it was just almost irritating, but the process going through this time of really seeing the role that he plays and being a part of this entire experience has really been encouraging, and makes me very aware of the sensitivity that a father goes through this entire process. It's a whole new, and even the identity shift happens, like you said earlier, with the first child, with the second child, or the eighth child. You show up as a parent for each one of these children differently, and you show up for yourself differently. It's just this process that we go through, and really keeping that identity is important, and keeping that mindset is very important. So I want to cap all that by saying that this Alternative Healthcare Solutions has created a community, a safe community for people going through this experience as well, with practitioners that can support you on this path. So please feel free to reach out to any of us if you are interested in joining that community, to see what kind of support is offered there through this process. Again, it's $35 a month, but you can cancel anytime. And you have access to all of our events that we put on at no additional cost, or you have all of the replays from all the events that we have right now. We have over 100 hours of workshops in there just for your healing journey, everything from mindset transformation to, reversing chronic conditions. So we invite you to join us there in that space. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question, which we're coming up on the hour, so we got about 30 minutes left. And let's see. This next question is, why are women's health concerns not heard or taken seriously when we bring them up to doctors? I think that that's an important question to ask. So many times we're dismissed, and it's not taken seriously. And I know that whenever I want to be taken seriously, I always take my husband with too. So anybody want to go ahead and share their thoughts and insight on this one?
I will.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I noticed, and I did not notice this before I went in to confirm my twin pregnancy at my regular OBGYN. Our first appointment was pre-shutdown. It was 2 months before the shutdown. And we were walking through it. Now, they saw on paper what I did for a living. And there is a checklist that they went through. And we use one of the major hospitals here, one of the teaching hospitals that's well known nationwide. And there's a checklist, and they're only educated on so many things. There's several people in my family who have been part of the conventional medical community, and you're educated, but you're not educated in all facets of health and wellness. And there's a lot of conditions that have been coming out left and right that doctors really just aren't aware of. And it's not on a checklist. And I got very annoyed with my checklist because my checklist also included nutrition elements. They're asking me why I'm not eating dairy while I'm pregnant. I can't eat it. It makes me sick for 3 days plus. So I can't eat it. And it was a significant challenge because it was on a checklist. They go back to this checklist. Mm-hmm. And everything is so regulated that if they divert from that checklist, then there's challenges administratively, there's challenges with their connections to insurance companies, with their licensure, with any of the accreditations, the state mandated evaluations. Everything has to be lined up just so. And that is one of the crucial factors in trying to bridge a gap between patient care and logistically trying to stay within legal parameters. There's a disconnect there.
Yeah. I think it's also important to point out that if you have health concerns that you feel that you're not, being heard, that's called your intuition. And for so long, especially in the medical world, we have neglected the intuition that we have for our own bodies. We've been taught to ignore the intuition that we have for our own bodies. And that's where we start to get into this doubting ourselves, right? And so if you have intuition, stay strong and true to that intuition and keep seeking until you find those solutions, until you find those answers. I think that that's what's so important. I mean, I know, in my experience, and I've shared this before, but just even as a new mother, the first time I had, my first child, he was vomiting, just profusely vomiting. Like I'm talking like projectile across the room. And he was breastfed, and it was not, I know it wasn't overfeeding. I was going through this checklist of everything that I know it wasn't. And the sheer look on my child was terror. Like we're talking a 2-week-old completely in terror. And I trusted my mother's intuition, my own mother. So I'm, Mom, what's going on with my child? And she's like, he's fine. He's a puker. You were a puker. He's okay. All of this. But I learned very quickly during that process, like no, I think I have my own intuition. And as much as I want to trust my mom or trust my doctor who says everything is fine, my intuition is screaming out at me that something is wrong. And so when I took him to the doctor to find out what happened, he said the same thing. He says, "You're a new mom. The baby's a vomiter. You're overfeeding him. You're feeding him way too much." He went on to explain how the stomach only holds 2 tablespoons and all of this. And I'm like, okay. And then I hope you're right, but I don't think you are. So he encouraged me to just do on-demand feeding. Well, my 2-week-old went 8 hours without even asking for the breast. And finally, and which is uncommon, it's supposed to be every 2 to 3 hours. And so after about that 8 hours, and I woke him up and I'm like, "You have to eat." And I forced him, and he took 2 swallows and then vomited an enormous amount. And so I went back to the doctor's office without an appointment, to the same one that I'd seen the day before. And I walked into the office and I said, "I am not leaving until you tell me what's wrong with my child. I'm not leaving. I'm here." And I didn't. And I was 20 years old. So as you can imagine, this doctor is just like, "Woman," But as they took a look at him, they were like, "Okay." They kind of just pat me on the shoulder, "Okay, mama," and took me in the room. And they noticed that he lost 9 ounces overnight, which is a significant loss for a baby. And immediately said, "Well, we're going to feed you barium today, little guy." And they wrapped him up and shoved him in a tube and x-rayed his entire body and found that he had pyloric stenosis. And if I would have waited another 24 hours or even 18 hours, he would have died. And that was the bottom valve of his stomach closing, and it grows shut. And it's not common that it happens that early in age. It's usually about 2 months that it starts to happen. So he was way before his time to have it happen, but it grew shut. So that means none of his body was processing any of the foods. So he was starving to death, even though he had a full stomach of food. And he had to have emergency surgery. But that intuition that we have, it's there for a reason. It is there. It is your God-given gift to be able to guide your life and to be able to keep you safe and keep your children safe and keep, everything flowing in the way it's supposed to flow. So I just wanted to share that. I know it's not, fertility or infertility, but it is intuition. It is like you have those concerns and they're there for a reason. Now, the flip side to that is that you can also create those problems within our body, because like we just spoke about, when we set our mind on it and we focus on that, then it becomes this, your body automatically starts to create that situation. So I want to just, tell you that, like, for me, the experience is to go in. Is this rooted in fear? Well, yes, there's a fear factor in there. I'm afraid that something's wrong with my child, but it's more rooted in a knowing. And I think that that's when you tell the difference between intuition and fear. When you find that it's a knowing, then you can trust that intuition and find the answers that you need. So I know it's kind of choppy waters to be talking about that, but if anybody else wants to chime in, go ahead and feel free. Sure. Go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, so important in whatever part of this journey that you're on, to listen, like you said, to your intuition and to be your own advocate. I think that story was really relevant, because when you are going through fertility, infertility, becoming a parent, any part of this journey, you have to listen, like you said, to that knowing from within, and not expect or trust that one doctor is going to have the answer for absolutely everything. Because again, like we mentioned earlier, they have limitations to what their training is in and what they've seen personally and professionally. And so when you're thinking there's something going on with me, there's something wrong, or my child, whatever the case is, it can keep asking, keep looking, find that care team that is going to take you seriously, that is going to listen to you, and is going to help you search and figure out what's going on. Like you said, we can, through that fear, we can exacerbate or create some symptoms or some situations, but knowing yourself is key. Because I work with so many people who have tried to get answers and just haven't been able to, they've tried, all the tests, all the different kinds of specialists. They haven't been able to figure out what's going on with them through all those traditional tests and methods. And they were told that they made it up, basically, right? That it was all in their head. And so they come to me to try to figure out, is that true? Is there really something going on like I think there is? Or, is it completely psychosomatic? Because yes, 85%, according to the CDC, of physical health conditions have a psychological component. But again, mind body connection, which means it can start in one and show up in the other always. And so it can be that you have something physically going on and you become anxious about it. And then that can exacerbate those symptoms. So it's just so key to keep asking and keep looking. That is the number one advice that I can give is, find those solutions for you. And that may be in traditional medical community. It may be in the integrative community. That's where I found a lot of my answers. It's, maybe holistic treatments. It can be a whole combination, right? It can be all of it. Like Vishal was saying earlier, there's absolutely a time and a place. And Kate mentioned this, I think we all did, right? There's a time and a place, of course, for that traditional medical, right? Our modern science. And sometimes it has its limitations where you need to look a little deeper and a little harder. I know for me personally, with my journey, I haven't really touched on that much here yet, but, I've been dealing with my own issues with my, reproductive health and infertility for 20 years. And when it was in my 20s, the condition that I have, there's like 0.1% of people who have that in their 20s. And when you get to your 40s, like I am now, it's 1%, so it's not something that they see all the time. So if those doctors haven't seen that, they don't understand it, they really didn't, even when they figured out what it was, know what to do with me. They were kind of like, well, like this is all we know, and hopefully it'll turn out for the best. And so for me, really searching in that integrative and holistic community of like, okay, who are those integrative hormone specialists? Who are these people that can be part of my care team, that can support me, that can say, well, here, let's try this natural thing. Let's do this to support your body to be as healthy as possible for as long as possible, because there's a lot of conditions, like you were saying, Jamie, earlier, autoimmune conditions, things that a lot of our medical community just, they don't see or they're not trained on. And so trust your gut, trust yourself, that intuition, that if you think that there is something wrong or that that's not the right answer for you, keep looking, keep asking.
Absolutely. Great words of advice. Okay, so anybody else want to jump on that one, or are we going to move on to the next question? You guys ready to move on? All right. So let's see. Let's go on to just this really quickly. What are the options? What options are available? Let me pull across the screen here. Let's see. Oh, did it in the wrong chat. All right. So what options are available and how to discuss the desire to share them with your primary OB/GYN and RA without feeling weird, unusual, or stress about it. Introverts especially. Let's talk about this really quick. And I know, Bonnie, you probably have some words to say here, but let's go down this world.
Well, that's exactly how you feel when you walk in. I'm an extrovert, so I can only imagine how it feels from an introvert perspective. But, even at the very beginning, when you're someone that you don't know what's happening. You feel like, for me, my body worked like clockwork. Everything worked like clockwork, except my reproductive system. And just the act of actually getting pregnant, staying pregnant. And when you walk in and you're trying to talk to your doctors about that, they're going to ask you a million questions. And it does give you this feeling of there's something wrong with me, and I'm the problem. And in reality, it's just, we're humans. We have limitations, whether we want to admit them or not. And it really comes back to mindset with this one. And it's why mindset's so important, even from the very beginning. And just know that some OBGYNs and some reproductive endocrinologists really don't have all the answers. We went to one, and I wish we had gone to the first round, but we didn't know about him because our first doctor didn't have the answers. She wouldn't admit that. She was actually very rude and condescending. I remember leaving our last treatment with her and getting to the car because I refused to let her see me cry. And I got in the car and just bawled my eyes out. And when we went to the next doctor, the answers he gave us from tests that had been done before we went into her office, it was eye-opening. There were answers that I should have been told at the very beginning. She just didn't know. So when you're walking in feeling weird and unusual and stressed, you really want to backtrack and do some mindset work because you need to advocate for yourself in this case. And it's tough to do when you feel like you're defeated.
Yeah.
But it's necessary.
Yeah. I think that also going back to intuition, if you feel like there are other options out there, then follow that intuition. And I am a firm believer in that seek, knock, ask, and those things are going to be revealed to you. And I think that that's a big area where the hope gets diminished is when you do go to the doctor and say, what are my options? They're like, there are none. It's this shot, or it's this procedure or this procedure. And they're so limited. So just, again, trust that intuition that there is other things out there, and keep seeking, keep knocking, keep asking. Just really encourage you to do that. And, I think that if you are not comfortable with sharing with your OB that you're going to be thought of as crazy or you're going to be dismissed, then maybe that's not the right OB for you. You have to be able to be an advocate to find someone who's also going to be in your corner. And I think that that is so important. Someone who supports you, someone who is able to really walk beside you with your desires and what you're wanting for your life. Because when that alignment comes in, that's when that transformation happens. That's when that breakthrough happens, and you can't do it without that alignment. I'm a firm believer in that. So, again, just, if you are feeling that this is going to be weird, or you're going to be stressed about it, or there's going to be confrontation, then I don't think that is the practitioner, the OB for you. That's one of the things that I really love about alternative healthcare solutions as well, is that we know that we understand that you have to have that alignment. We believe that firmly. And so that's why that we're here as a collective to say, here is my modality, here's our experience, here's how I can help you. And if that doesn't resonate with you, that doesn't align with you, then we have other practitioners that can and will, and really coming together for that support team to be able to bring about that experience. I would also say that when you have a practitioner that you're able to work with, it's holistic. If you want to be more holistic minded, but you need to be in partnership with the medical conventional route, that is still a partnership. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It doesn't have to be, I'm going with an OB instead of a natural, even though my intuition is telling me natural. It doesn't have to be either or. It is a process that is teamwork. We are here. We're not anti-conventional at all whatsoever. Trust me. We are very pro, but we are more of the support of you to say, we're going to help you guide that intuition. We're going to help support that intuition, support those emotions, support the mindset, and really give you the alternative space, give you the modalities to explore, give you, the knowledge, give you the resources to be able to help you on that journey. And that's what's so important about what we offer here. Kate, do you have something to say here?
I would say that, when you talk about what other options are available, there's lots. You have to research and decide what's right for you. But how to discuss that with the primary, one thing that worked for me in a different situation was really just explaining to my doctor that I'm taking a team approach. Like you're my medical doctor. I need to know what you know. But I'm also just going to support my body mentally. I'm going to support my body emotionally. And I have a team. I'm working with a team. So, they don't need to know necessarily what modalities are and how the modalities work and so on. But, sometimes it can be, especially for an introvert, really intimidating, like that you have to explain yourself or explain why or what you're doing, when in reality, you can just say, okay, look, I want to take care of all parts of me through this. So I'm incorporating support, in these other areas, as opposed to necessarily explaining, okay, I'm going to be doing this thing and this thing and this thing, and this is emotion code, and this is this, and this hypnotherapy. Like all of these things are so beneficial and supportive. So use your intuition. But when it comes to talking to your doctor and you're nervous about it, just say, hey, you know what? I've got a team of people helping me get through this. And I might have questions that you may not understand, but that's because somebody who's helping me with my mental health through this is asking, or something that, I might be having a question from somebody who's helping me emotionally or whatever. And that would just, I guess, be my way of how to maybe approach it, is to just say, hey, I got a team of people helping me get through this. And so if I have a question, it's sometimes it's for somebody else on my team. And I'd love your input because of your knowledge and your training and your experience. And so you need that doctor's perspective, but then you can also use that as you're communicating with your team. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that, Kate. That is such a great approach. And I also agree with Jamie that if then they're not open-minded to that you can go find someone else. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And what Bonnie just said here on the screen is amazing too, that, same thing. I work with a lot of my clients, doctors. They're on the mental health side, they're psychiatrists. On the physical health side, right, they're primary cares or they're specialists, to help as that care team. And I think that's such an amazing approach. And as the introvert side, I can definitely speak to how important the identity piece is that we are talking about in today's discussion as well. Because when you're looking at that mind-body connection, first of all, strengthening that, learning how to trust your intuition, and having a really strong sense of identity of who you are, and that you know your body best, and that you know yourself best. And for me, that has been very helpful. That's something that as an introvert, can give you that courage and that confidence, even if it's a quiet confidence, to say, you know what, I know myself best. And if you do feel weird, stressed, especially anxious, again, that may not be the right practitioner for you. And there's a lot of those traditional medical practitioners who are open-minded and will say, okay, well, this is what I think you should do from my perspective, and whatever else you want to do, whatever other parts of your care team you want to have. Okay, great. go for that, or they're open to hearing about it. And so I would look for somebody, like Jamie said, that you can feel really comfortable with, and also really work on that identity piece for yourself of being really strong in who you are and what you know to be true about and for yourself. And that will definitely help you to step out and to stretch that comfort zone and being able to be your own advocate.
Absolutely. So powerful. I love it. And I think that really just encompasses who we are at AHS and what you have, access to through our collective of practitioners. So we're coming up on the hour here, on the half hour. So that means that we're coming to a close. And I know everybody, this has been an hour and a half long, and thank you for joining us this entire time. If you've been here through the whole thing, we really appreciate you guys being here. I'm just going to give each practitioner just kind of a last closing statement of, what they're going to be addressing on the 27th when in regards to infertility, fertility, and mindset. And I think you've gotten a good example of what we were talking about today, but each practitioner is going to they're going to have their own workshop, and they're going to go deeper into what they have. So I'm going to go ahead and give it the round and let Jody go ahead and begin and kind of share with us what the workshop looks like for her on the 27th.
Thank you, Jamie. So we're going to, in my workshop, be talking about more of this mind-body connection, intuition, and identity piece. So I'm really going to dive into how you can build that sense of identity and strength within yourself, how you can shift your thoughts in order to help give you the best possible success within your body, of getting it to work with you rather than at odds against your wishes and what you would like to move towards. So how do you do that, right? How do you really reprogram, reframe those thoughts? How do you get in that mindset? And how do you become your own advocate? So I'm actually going to touch on all of those pieces on the 27th, and I'm really excited. So I hope that you will join us, because I think no matter where you are in your journey of fertility, infertility, parenthood, this is going to be such an amazing event. So I hope you'll join us.
Perfect. Beautiful. Looking forward to that. And then Kate, how about you, girl?
So I'm really excited about this as well. I'm going to be talking from an emotional perspective, and really just discuss the different types of emotional energies that you could have knowingly or unknowingly have suppressed throughout your journey, your process, and just describe how easy it is to release those energies. And I'll give some demonstrations of how this energy can be released. And so what that really allows you to do is just start learning how to allow emotions to happen, and allow them to process, so that your body can restore and respond and heal. And it's really things that you're going through now are often triggered from suppressed energies from your entire life. And you can inherit things, and there's things that you experience while you were being developed in the womb. And so all of these things can come into play. And if we can show you how to identify these things, it's going to make the healing journey for you, for your partner, together, just take it to the next level. So I would encourage you not only to come for yourself, but invite your partner to come with you and attend these workshops, because together, you're going to find different things that resonate for each of you. And like Bonnie shared earlier, you need that sounding board, you need that support, and you're in this together, whether it is a fertility, infertility, or it is, hey, we're new parents and we're struggling. And that these things, if you can do it together and learn about this, it can kind of just really guide you to the next level. So I'm excited for the workshops coming up. Hope you'll join us.
Oh, so excited. This is going to be such a great event. And Vishad?
So, disclaimer, as I mentioned it already, I'm not a parent. So if that's the perspective you're necessarily looking for, then you might want to look elsewhere. But as Jamie mentioned before, right, if there are people struggle, and as she mentioned a great point about, are men necessarily heard in all this, or the fathers, I should say. That's completely valid. And what I would like to do is take that a little bit step further is, whether you're a prospective mum, prospective dad, a parent already, I'd like to invite you to an open session where you get to ask and talk what you would like to. As everybody's outlined and shown so many examples in this session, and talk about things like intuition, that leads on the idea that you have some of your answers already. You might feel a bit lost and stuck and don't know what to do, and it's a very emotional and personal time. But, you know, as Jamie mentioned and others have mentioned, that when people tell you a certain answer and you just feel, oh no, there's something more than that, that's actually symptomatic of a lot of what we go through in life, about there's something beyond this. So to be honest, I'd like to invite an open session for people to ask those questions. I'm not saying we're going to fix everything. I'm not going to say that everything will work out, but it's just another space for people to ask what they'd like to, away from a health professional, whatever. And I would just, to be honest, really echo what those people have said. Like, the people that you ask in this space, whether it is someone medical, a alternative practitioner, whomever, family, whomever, they're all there to try and help you. And if people are there to either take the piss or not resonating or giving you some opinionated advice, then there are others that you can go for, because this, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is your personal journey. So to be honest, as I say, I would invite people to not just my session, but to everybody else, because they'll have been there, seen there, worn the t-shirt or this kind of thing. So really, I'm just keeping it open to you guys. You guys can lead the way about this space, and you know, we can make those links towards what's practically underneath and maybe give you some pathways forward.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Bashan. And Bonnie.
Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit different. We are still going to focus on nutrition and herbs. And effectively what we're going to do is we are going to have an open discussion, a talk where I'm going to share exactly what I did as far as how I structured my diet during each one of these phases, and especially during that first year with the twins. My twins were not on the same schedule. Typically with multiples, I found out after the fact that this is reality. They were in NICU. It was breathing took time that we did not have. So we're going to go over everything that I did, how I structured my diet. There's so many other practitioners focusing on mindset. I wanted to really talk with you guys about foods and herbs that would be helpful, plus ones that surprisingly can hinder you trying to get pregnant and can hurt you while pregnant or postpartum. So we are going to dive into that during my session.
Beautiful. I think it's also important to say that, again, invite your significant other, because, you know, it's a recent study that just showed that even when you do conceive, the health of the placenta is determined by the male sperm, and the male sperm also is, the health of the male sperm is also dependent upon his diet and his lifestyle. So this is not just a mama topic. This is a mom and dad topic for sure.
Yeah, this is. Brian will tell you that about the only time I got very specific with what I wanted him to eat and not eat was when we were in active treatment and when I was pregnant. So we got lots to talk about.
Well, we will also have a main speaker as well. So we are going to be dropping that information later on. So please stay tuned to all of our notifications and everything that we will have coming up here. Just make sure that you guys keep in touch, link, follow all of our platforms. Wherever it is that you show up, that's where we're there as well. So just follow us. Make sure if you're on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. If you're on Facebook more, follow us on Facebook, and we'll be dropping some important announcements and event information coming up. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a blessed day.